throwing his equipment, throwing trash around, and just storming straight off the job site. But what can you do? Welcome to this week's video where we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff, but before we get into it, make sure to hit that like button, notification bell, subscribe, comment down below. Wait, save your comment because we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. I'm sure you have questions, put them down below. What are we talking about today?
Well, we haven't talked about the electrical yet, so we can talk about the electrical. We had a door installer come in for our patio doors. We'll talk about that and the issues with that. We'll talk about what soffits are in our linear vents. We'll also talk about the trees outside. We have dead trees outside, and we're hoping that we're gonna finally get the
You
city
guys
to
know
do
how
something.
the government doesn't do anything? We got them to do something this time.
We hope. We'll see. So let's get right into it, and let's talk about the door installer guy. So now that we've moved over about 4 feet from where we were standing in the previous shot,
Some polyurethane sealant on the floor below us and no glass pocket doors. Tell them why, Eddie.
patio door installer guy came here, and we were trying to set up our camera so we can start getting some shots of it so you guys can see what it's gonna look like, the install process. He started getting agitated about it. He turned to me and said, "What are you doing with the camera? You're gonna take pictures, whatever." I'm like, "No, we're taking video for YouTube." And he wasn't happy about that.
I showed up around the portion where I guess they had agreed to take videos as long as he wasn't included in the shots. But as I was outside putting on my boots, camera guy came out and he's like, "Hey, he's being really problematic. He doesn't want me to film anything, not even his hands." And I came in, I was like, "Hey man, like what's the issue with the filming? Let's find a middle ground here." He's sitting here putting polyurethane all over the seal, won't look at me, doesn't acknowledge me, won't talk to me, and said, "No filming, no filming." I said, "All right man, no filming, can I talk to you?" And he continued gluing and wouldn't look at me. And I was like, "Listen, man, stop that. I need to talk to you because I need to film and you need to do your job. So let's find the middle ground, how that works, because there's always a middle ground." Now with this guy, he turned around and said, "Do you want me to leave and stop doing the job?" I said, "Hey, if that's your attitude, you're more than welcome to leave." So they started packing up. He started throwing things around, breaking things, yelling, screaming, cussing, storming off the job site, throwing his equipment, throwing trash around, and just storming straight off the job site. But what can you do? When people decide to do that, they do that. There's nothing you can do. It's outside of your control. I'm glad we caught his behavior and the type of person he was at the beginning of the job and not at the end. Because God knows if he would have came back to fix any issues that we had with his job. I don't think we would have. He came recommended. It seemed like he did good work based on the references that we saw. But the attitude just wasn't it. We're trying to build long-term relationships here. And he wasn't someone that was a possibility with, unfortunately.
So now we have this polyurethane here that we got to clean up because nothing got installed. It's dried up. We're just gonna try and scrape it off, and we gotta find a new patio door installer guy.
Now that we've talked about the pocket doors without them actually being here, let's talk about the soffit that we built around the pocket doors.
Now that we've moved another 4 feet over, we're gonna talk about soffits. So Sam, what's a soffit?
So I'm standing a little bit in one of our soffits that was built for the pocket doors. Total in this house, we have 3 soffits. This one, the other pocket door, and then one above the kitchen for the AC vent. Soffits are basically enclosures that are set up to hide anything mechanical. So whether it's the AC vents, electrical, plumbing, anything that can't fit into a wall or an enclosure like that, they build a fake wall or a pocket or a cutout or something, which is called a soffit. Like I said, we have 3 soffits here. Only one of these soffits were not included in our original plans, and those are the soffits that you have to pay for. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of an issue with our framer because he agreed to show up and do the soffits, told him the additional soffit, which was above the kitchen cabinets. This soffit was just bumped out a little bit because of the AC vent. So these 5 2x4s that you see behind me, those are the additional pieces of wood that he had to kind of hit up. He shows up the day of and basically tells Eddie he wants
$3,500.
in labor, which is ridiculous. He kind of went on to say, "Hey, your pocket doors, even though it needs the soffit on top, that's not how it's drawn in your architectural plans," which is a little bit misleading. So you definitely want to make sure that you discuss these things with your framers and make sure that you trust your framer not to do things like this. Shows up the day of, extra charge. We have to get the job done. It's really problematic at that point. So Eddie, with some shrewd negotiations, that ended up getting it down to...
He agreed to do it for $2,000, but He agreed to do the soffits for that, as well as screwing down the floors.
A few of the problems that we had with the framing are things that should have been included and done by the framer. For example, he's a framer, he should know that if it's raining, he needs to cover up his job site. So he didn't, it rained a little bit, so we had to take an extra step of screwing down the floors. He decided that he wanted to charge for that. Some of the windows that we had told him to frame out smaller than what's drawn in the plans, he said, I'll knock them down later, and then charged us more to do it later instead of framing it out the way that we had asked. So we just had a couple of problems here and there. It's not that big of a deal. Ended up costing us an additional $2,000 in labor. I'm gonna jump over to the kitchen and talk about that soffit and show you guys that, and we'll talk about the price of material as well.
So now that we moved about 40 feet this way, we're gonna talk about the extra lumber that I took to make these extra soffits.
You okay there, Eddie?
Yes.
You seem to be struggling with this smaller ladder.
It is smaller. There's a lot less room on here.
It's always better to have a bigger ladder. So the soffit's behind us. This is the one additional soffit that we essentially added. This goes directly above the kitchen cabinets, which would go along right here. And this is made out for the AC vent. So the AC vent here is 12 inches, but this actually sticks out 14. So why don't you tell them why we decided to make this 14 inches?
Yeah, so the reason we did 14 inches is because the kitchen cabinets are gonna come butt up against this, and we couldn't get it perfectly flush. We're not at that stage yet. We're not that level of perfection yet where we can get our kitchen cabinets flush. So we wanted to leave a little bit of an edge. We could add some crown molding if we want. We'll see how it goes. But that's why we did a 14-inch soffit when we only really needed a 12-inch.
So this was basically the only additional soffit that we had put in. Everything else should have been according to the plans and included. So the additional cost of the soffits is the $2,000 in labor that we originally talked about, and then $1,214.19 in materials. That includes all the soffits and a couple extra things that we needed to add, like blockings on the eaves and a few extra things here and there. So let's talk about, from here, let's talk about the fireplace and how we framed that out and how we used the extra space there. So I'm standing in front of the living room window, which was originally centered between the end of the fireplace and the outside wall. Unfortunately, with this soffit built out, it throws it off center. Instead of moving over the window and all the foundation hold downs and everything and yada yada, all these problems, we figured out a better way to do it. The soffit is built out, I don't know how many inches, but it sets this window end out 21 inches. So from here, we built out 21 inches to the mantle of the fireplace. This mantle was boxed out around our electrical fireplace, which was originally supposed to be gas. So talk to them about this, Eddie, and what we decided to do here.
So originally our fireplace was drawn as a gas fireplace, but we never had an intention to put a gas fireplace in. We did run a gas pipe right underneath here so that if a future homeowner wants to put in a gas, they have that ability to without having to redo a whole bunch of plumbing. So that's ready for the future homeowner for an actual gas fireplace. We had to pick out our electrical fireplace, which we put a poll onto our Instagram, and we were in between picking out one or the other. You guys voted on it, and we bought the one that got more votes. So we
follow us on Instagram so you guys can help choose a lot of the finishes, because we're getting to that point where we're choosing finishes and we're polling a lot of things.
That's when we framed out the fireplace. Once we bought it, we knew the dimensions of it. We framed it out. This block right here is where we're gonna mount the TV. And we have two special features here. Right on top of the fireplace and right on top of the TV, we have framed it out to be two shelves. Those shelves is where you can hide a bunch of things that you don't want seen, like the low voltage stuff. Low voltage means like your router, your DVR box, your amplifier for the speakers that we're gonna put into the house. You can hide it all back here so nobody can see it. For you to access it, you just pull out your telescoping TV mount, you access all those components, and then you can hide it away behind your TV. So with that, let's talk about all the low voltage and all the electrical stuff.
Because we do have an inspection later today, so we're hoping to pass that electrical inspection, but let's jump to electrical. So I'm standing in front of the sub panel. We got some more electrical stuff here. There's a lot of things going on with electrical. We have an inspection in about 2 hours today. So it's from 1 to 3. Once that inspection is passed, it gives us clearance to start drywalling, well, that and all the other mechanicals. We have a lot to talk about in terms of electrical. We've taken a lot of extra steps, added additional features. I don't think we're gonna have time to include that in today's video, But subscribe, notification bell. We're gonna definitely upload next week talking about all the electrical, all the features and everything we've done in terms of that, and some things that you guys can use in your planning stages of building your home to make it a much smoother process. So let's jump over, talk about the tree. Hopefully we can get them cutting down the tree today, get some footage of that. And we'll also talk about LID and the LID barrels, because we got some barrels for cheap and we also figured out how to save some money there. So we're standing outside in front of this dead tree and we got this beautiful sign that hopefully means something. Hopefully it means they're breaking this tree down, they're tearing it down today.
Yeah, so when we first got this house, we called the city about this tree and our neighbor's tree, that one was completely dead when we bought the house. This one was almost dead.
Almost dead means it was dying. Half the tree was dead.
Called the city asking them to come out and take a look. What they originally told me is that one's too dead to go. This one's not dead enough to go. But as the project has been going on and on, this tree has been dying and dying, and now it's completely dried up. So this is just like a matchbox waiting to catch fire. So eventually they put up these signs and we're hoping that they're gonna come back today and take out both of these trees.
We spent a lot of time calling the city and chipping away at them, just like I'm chipping away at this stupid tree, to get them to come take this out. Because originally they said we could take out a no-cost permit and remove the tree ourselves. But when we got some quotes, each tree was about $1,500, $2,000. So it's just kind of ridiculous that the city plants these trees, they die, and then they don't want to remove it, or they tell us we have to go on a 50-year wait list. It seems like with the right amount of hassle, they're willing to do the job, and hopefully by the end of today, both of these trees will be gone. So we saved $4,000 there. Let's talk about how we saved more money on the LID planters or the rain barrels that we decided to install in this house because the city required, not because we wanted to.
So let's talk about the rain barrels or LID requirements. This tank in front of me is a smaller one. This is a 130-gallon tank. The one behind me is a 265-gallon tank. The way we got these is off of OfferUp. This brand new is about $1,000. This one brand new is about $1,500. Yeah. So we found the guy on OfferUp selling 4 of these, or 2 and 2 for $1,500 total. So we quickly jumped on that opportunity. We rented a U-Haul and went and picked them up.
So the deal with these rain barrels and how we figured out a way to save money on it is our architect kind of messed up the calculations. Basically, whatever addition you do on the property, whatever coverage, surface coverage with a building that you have on the property, additional to what is existing, you need to provide 0.42 gallons per 1 square foot of additional coverage. I don't know how our architect did the calculations, but he forgot to add the patio coverage that we had, which was about 600 square feet, 700 square feet, something like that. We redid the calculations and we figured out that we could remove 2 to 3, I think, of the rain barrels that were included. Each one of these being $1,000 retail, that's about $3,000 in savings. The reason that we have these rain barrels on the property is essentially whatever water was supposed to be soaked up into the ground on our property needs to stay on our property. Usually with the roof, it collects in the gutters and it goes to the street. The city of Los Angeles wants to save water from going into the street, so you have to load it up into these barrels, and then the overflow actually ends up going to the street anyways. The rest of the water you're supposed to use to water your plants, your grass, and all those other things. I've noticed that a lot of homeowners that have these want them removed or want to get rid of them. So if you need them for your development property, you could try checking on OfferUp, Craigslist, and other locations to try to get a better discount on these rain barrels. Another interesting fact is when we originally signed to get the permits for this house, they had us sign an agreement basically stating that we will inform the new buyers of the house of how to use these barrels, how they work, and ensure that they're kept around for at least 5 years. I don't know how I'm gonna force another homeowner that I have no involvement with or authority over to keep these rain barrels, but we had to sign it to get our permits issued. That wraps it up for this week's video. Next week, we're gonna talk about all the electrical. Hopefully by that time, we would have passed all our rough electrical inspection and learned a couple more things. So we'll see you guys next week. Make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, thumbs up. Thank you guys for all the support. We'll see you guys next week.